and just kind of late a game. But ShoWTime might be looking to attack right here. He's going to go down this round. This is scary, cast. There's so many EMPs available. If the EMPs are good, the mines are good. This is going to be bad. The Vikings go to work on the Colossi.
They were good. They were good indeed. And the Serral buffer is going to kind of thin out to where ShoWTime, yes, he can take an engagement on the bottom side of the ramp, but he's still going to push the issue forward. Good EMPs onto the Archons. They're going to melt. And now ShoWTime on the retreat. Vikings still left over. I'm surprised he went up that ramp. Now the Serral reinforcements are going to try to do something to shield this Colossus, but the mines are all out to reload as well. This Raptor shot is going to catch a handful of SCVs. But oh my god, this was just a masterful defense from Clem and perhaps a little bit of an overcommitment up the ramp from ShoWTime. Pivotal for him to move in that timing window because, like you said, he knew that the army of Clem was preoccupied in the top left-hand side. So now breaks the rock. Still gonna find a very strong opening here. Clem unaware and out of position. That means the CC is gonna fall. A lot of the SCVs as well, and you don't want to go up this ramp with this Raptor. So Clem is going to have to forfeit this position. I'm not sure why he's trying to reclaim it. Even maybe he's just trying to prevent from ShoWTime from continuing to advance. And ShoWTime is indeed gonna try to continue to advance. So Clem had the right idea, but Ansiege is at the wrong point. And now those Raptors are kind of going off everywhere. It's not going to be enough. Clem, with splits as good as the space that he is playing with allows, will be able to turn things around for the time being. The medevacs are now out of energy, so he's kind of struggling. But the Stalkers, they don't have a lot of shields or HP left. And wow, what an exchange there.
Wow, Clem's belief in being able to snipe down the Disruptors, he just knows, like, if I don't kill the Disruptors in this moment, I'm dead anyways. So he just makes some crazy plays. Yeah. Well, you're going to be seeing, honestly, ShoWTime's army very mobile, and right now is being continuing to move around, putting Clem into some pressure. Clem trying to utilize the libs. He's going to die for the Disruptors. The EMP helps. He needed the EMP, and it actually makes the world of difference. All of a sudden, the entire army of ShoWTime is dying. He blinks the other way to get into Liberator range. We can hit the EMP on the TTs as well instantly, and ShoWTime gets melted, absolutely destroyed.
But they have been scouted, they have been mostly accounted for, and it is Serral that we're talking about. So this Hellion drop, however, in the main, that is a wonderful opening that he finds. The Queen not in position. The Banelings are going to the main, but that means there's not going to be Banelings available to go for the run by at the natural potentially, as now Hellions over there, Lynx over here. The double Evo Chamber block is going to prevent further losses from Serral. Make it a triple and a quadruple one perhaps, as he completely encases his drones, and only one Hellion will reach. The Queens are going to be here to help, and what a beautiful defense to start things off from a Serral that has killed 4 workers on the other side. And yes, he loses 10 drones, but I feel like that's okay. Now, given the circumstances, it could have been much worse, the Queen being off position there, alongside the Lurker upgrades that he has been getting. So Nidus in the main of Clem, gonna be unspotted for a little bit. Lurkers actually are already ready to be unloaded. Does Clem have enough here? He doesn't seem to have a scan right now, which means now this ramp is gonna be very difficult to breach. 3 Lurkers are gonna tax this army very highly. Now the next Nidus is what needs to come here, but you can see how efficient already 3 Lurkers have been. 1 mine gets a miracle shot off, but this is going to enable Serral to go on the offense at the triangle third of Clem. There's so many CCs here that Clem is going to want to lift off in order to prevent them from being blown up from Banelings, and the Banelings are continuing to traverse here through the grounds, but not really connecting to SCVs. Instead, Serral has just left a pocket of Lynx there and now will be forced to retreat, but I can't help but to think that Serral maybe could have done a little bit more economic damage there with his Banelings onto the mineral line rather than trying to go for the army and get deeper into Clem's base, which is more of a game-ending maneuver, right? And get a Neural Parasite onto one of these ghosts, then you can EMP the rest, and then you basically render them useless. So that is a huge move that Serral's going to be looking for. I'm not sure if this one, however, is a good one, as he is spreading far out of creep and onto liberation zones as well as mines.
Sneaky Infestor getting into the back lines over here. Clem scanning forward on creep, but not behind him where there is no creep. Is there going to be a massive bundle over here? The Baneling's going to be able to try and connect. They do manage to get some decent connections, and Serral gets a pretty sick cleanup there.
Now, Serral is trying to make something happen, but yeah, I mean, that was a very scary moment for Clem as he was pushing forward because the Ultras are so powerful, but luckily for him, there's nothing like a fungal to hold him in place, and he will now disengage after killing a base, which is really nice for him, and find himself going into now double Liberator production nonstop, as well as 3 ghosts at a time. Those are the answers that you need for Ultras. So when the Liberators were at the north, I was really concerned because it's like, wow, your army just doesn't have anything that deals with Ultra right now. If Serral manages to find that engagement, he will just wipe the floor with you. But that little scare moment, in my mind at least, is coming to pass quickly as Clem is getting geared up with the right units to answer.
Yep. These Thors also going to be on the front lines over here as they are the slowest ones to evacuate on out. The Ultras, the Banelings, they come raining on forward, looking to try and get a cleanup on that mineral line. Now, the army for Clem looks like it will, with a good spread, eventually clean up a lot of these Lings and Banelings, but the mineral line has been absolutely ravaged by the Ultras, by the Lings, by the Banelings. And it does seem like the tax has been taken on Clem's economy, which, not gonna lie, Cats, it hasn't been looking amazing, but he's still at a relatively okay work account. Is this still, you know, recoverable for Clem in that sense?
On to Clem. Serral's going to try to distract Clem here at the front. Clem is just going to tactile and run with the army that he was looking to harass with. Mines are not going to be particularly effective against Ravagers, and this is exactly why Serral is just going to bile them down with a good eye on the ground. He notices the shade. Now Nidus going in on the main as Serral does all of this, so let's see what he can load onto it as Clem is going to be very preoccupied with this army that's kind of catching him off guard, and Serral looking very strong here at the front with the Roach Ravager composition. The Marines, I mean, they're not going to fare well in a choke. The Nidus is now yelling in the main as the Queens have made their way through. Clem does manage to pick up the Nidus, a wonderful feat for him, but is that gonna be enough? The Factory actually blocking Clem a little bit there, but he really wants to get units out of it. Serral with the option to snipe it as the CC retreats. The Queens are still here, but no creep is gonna be no transfuse until the next Nidus pops up. So Clem is gonna look for the cleanup on that very smartly before joining his army together for a defense against the Roach Ravager.
A lot of good damage happening over there as Serral's able to find 25 of those workers. He's going to try and poke into the natural because he knows that he still wants to find a bit more. Remember, this was a big commitment for Serral to go for all of this. He still wants to find something more, but the Marines are stepping forward. They're dodging out of the way of the Biles. Is the 2-2 upgrade going to be enough? Are enough SCVs going to be here to buffer? It seems like Serral's starting to break further through, but Clem pushing Serral back down to the low ground. I mean, doubling the supply. I know Roaches are inflated supply caps, but surely this is enough damage, right?
No, yeah, it looks like it. It looks like Serral has done it here. It looks like Clem doesn't have much legs to stand on, and he is going to have to tap out. All the medevacs were out of energy as well. The scan has also missed him, so Serral really looking for that fungal, and you have to applaud him for that decision. It's really what would bring him back into the game. A huge engagement right now would be brilliant. He killed 2 bases of Clem, so economically he can remain competitive, but he has to absorb because he spent so much. Oh no! He spent so much of his army there to get that, and now this is not the engagement for Serral. He's turning a corner. The mines are there. Clem is gonna split, and that's gonna be it. Serral gives up. GG, well played. And Clem wins 3. I mean, in a little bit of a back foot, yeah, Reynor loses a forward third base, but he is so good at taking extra bases, at being ready to transfer his drones. So as far as economy is concerned, he hasn't lost anything.
And not only that, remember that the other thing he knocked down was the massive wall at the front. There's actually a massive gap now. Amazing. So the Lings just a flood across the map. They find their way in there. He's actually knocking down the wall into the main base as well, opening up the opportunities for more Lings to run on forward if he needs to have another opportunity. He needs to be able to mount a defense back at home. He's got the Banelings, he's got the Lings, he's got the Queens, and there's just not that large of an army over here for Clem. Sure, the Sneak Tanks are there, but they're so far back.
Yeah, Reynor also knows that the rest of the army is pinned back from Clem, so as much as Clem is trying to run to the other side to reinforce his army and take a full-on engagement, maybe Reynor had an opportunity to clear this half with the reinforcement units that were coming back from Clem's area. Instead, he's going to catch some units on the reinforce, which is equally good. But yeah, now Clem at least gets to consolidate his army and have a really strong punch here towards the tail end, potentially, of this game, as he is running out of options outside of this.
Yeah, Reynor getting set up for a massive surround. His +2 armor is also about to finish up. He's buying time with the Queens, and there it is. +2 armor finishes, and the massive concaving sweep comes forward. Clem doesn't have any room to micro back. There are just so many Banelings, Cats. I like Cats.
It is going to be difficult, but I mean, if he can get to the Lurkers, they are going to be an incredible tool. The Banelings managing to connect onto a little bit of the bio at the front there, as Reynor struggles to stabilize. If he can get to Lurkers, he will have a good chance here, as it's mostly just bio, but Clem identifies that this is a possibility. He's also adding on Ghost now 4 at a time for the first time in the game, so, you know, he is looking for that transition. He is not looking to get caught off guard here, as the Marauders are tanking for the Banelings, but that's going to expose them to the Hydras, who kind of shred Marauders, so a good engagement there from Reynor.
Yeah, solid defense from Reynor, despite having to take most of these trades off of creep. Oh god, that Widow Mine connecting on so many Banelings there. There are still 20 left over, and Reynor's going to continue to push forward. I guess he feels like he has to do something about these. absurd number of bases that Clem has been able to get up during all this, whereas Reynor has been really hurting economically. He's going to be taking yet another trade here off of creep. He does have some overwhelming numbers for a bit. Is this enough?
Yeah, I mean, not really. No, the Banelings are gone, and with that, he's going to have to retreat. So the Hydras are really exposed. They are glass cannons indeed, and the Marines will shred through them. So the Vipers are trying to do what they can to force the Marines forward, but is that really what you want? With Banelings coming up, the answer is going to be yes, but is that going to be enough? It looks like with the spread that Clem has, it's going to be very difficult. Now more Banelings are kind of like slipping in as the Liberators try to hold this zone. It's going to be a very even trade in the middle of the map at the end of the day, but that favors Clem greatly.
Yeah. No time for any of those lurkers to have gotten up during all of this either, as Reynor is just throwing every single unit he had a little bit. I think he also just identified there is the top right-hand base is the freshest base Reynor is established. Reynor's going to try and come in from multiple sides. He's coming in from the right. He's coming in from the top left. So many Banelings in a limbo line trying to chase back this Bioforce, and it will get punished as a Widow Mine detonates on quite a few of those Banelings. I think there's just still so many, though, that Clem has to respect the heck out of this.
Yep, and the 3 Widow Mines at the front are going to get taken down as well. This might be the opportunity that Reynor has been fishing for, as he dives for this planetary fortress that's morphing as well as the other one, but actually he's going to go for the units instead and going into the natural. I'm not sure if that was the right play. I think that this Banelings could have actually killed the planetary fortress and the one that was morphing instead, but they are looking for economic damage in the shape of SCVs. They will find a couple perhaps in this base, but Clem even splitting those, so it's not going to be very many. And an opportunity for Reynor that perhaps went missing a little bit there. Be careful not to overextend off of creep. As we know, I mean, that Marine army is not going to win against this army necessarily, but it can kill 4 or 5 Banelings before it has to pick up, and those, again, are expensive. Reynor now moving on to the Hydras to try to account for the mines in much greater numbers than we saw in previous games, at least relative to the rest of the amount of army that he has in the form of Link Baneling. So he should have no problem dealing with the mines. This is where Clem, I mean, he has to make a decision. Do I stick on mines or do I start going for the tanks? Because that is a significant number of Hydras now.
That is going to be a tough question. He's going to start thinning out a little bit of that Hydra count, as he is finding Hydras on both sides of the map that are pretty much unprotected, because there's 0 Banelings left out on the map right now. Only a handful of Lings as well. But man, now Clem is going to actually have a really, really nice upgraded advantage in a few moments' time. 2-2 about to finish up. He also heads into the main base, bypasses all of the spores, just boosts straight over them. Is gonna not really be targeting on anything specifically, but he's drawing attention away so he can try and hit in from the north side with some attacks. And well, that also looks like it's actually going to be overwhelmed with just a raw number of Hydras.
Yeah, Hydras are going to be very powerful here, especially with Link Bane to support. He obviously wants that Link Bane to support. The Hydras would probably win regardless, but you don't want to lose them because they're much more expensive per cost than the Marines. And now with this many Marines and with the medevacs arriving as well as the Widow Mines in the back, Reynor's kind of struggling. That one Baneling will get picked off easily by Clem any day of the week. And now Clem actually breaking through. The Hydras not able to stand their ground. And now the reinforcements are a little bit slow to come here from Reynor. On the other side, Clem continues to apply aggression, which is part of why Reynor is not taking the best possible engagement there with his unit on the north. The Queens do manage to find a medevac there on retreat, and another one as well, making it so that all of these units will only fit in one medevac, and they don't even pick up. So now the next mine maybe could do a favor to Reynor, but it's not going to be the case. He's instead going to be forced to evacuate this base and go down to 4 base against 4 base. This is a great victory for Clem here.
Clem's actually just ignoring the hatchery. He's going further forward, and then he's going to pull back over here after he's pushed back all the reinforcements, ensuring he's going to be able to secure time to clean up this hatchery. He then moves back in, is going to be able to right-click it down, and should be able to evacuate out of here on time. I think he does need to finally evacuate at this point.
Continues to accomplish here as he goes up a choke. That's a little bit dangerous for the mines, and Reynor will punish that right away with a few Banelings. So Clem has to think twice about going up the ramp. I'm not sure that Reynor wants to engage down the ramp, however, so he thinks about it twice as well. If you're going to engage here, it has to be Banelings at the front, and that is what he's going to readjust to do. The Hydras also provide a lot of damage if the Links are tanking for them. So if the Hydras are here and in a good concave, you can still take that engagement. You don't have to offer Links in the process either. There, beautiful. Reynor's doing a beautiful job here with the dance that he needs to do. Links in the back are actually going to drag mine fire, and that was a beautiful cleanup from the Italian. Bridge, beautiful EMP onto all 3 of the Vipers. Only 1 Ghost will pay the price for that, as Liberators are now sieging on said bridge. The problem for Clem is it's very difficult to split the Ghost as well, so he has to be really careful with the positioning and pre-spreading. Beautiful job from Reynor, just grabbing a unit here and there to continue to siege the bases of Clem. You need scans for that, you need units for that, right? It is just very difficult to deal with. Banelings. Oh, he could have gone for it. No
yeah,
here,
had the opportunity to try and just immediately, you know, manual detonate on these ghosts, but now they are very spread out. Overseer finally comes forward, and they are going to actually feel a little bit more vulnerable. So there's the pickup, the evacuation out. Single lurker actually doing surprisingly well versus a planetary fortress until it gets scanned. It might not go quite as well for Reynor.
Yeah, I mean, it is a base that's easy to shut down from the perspective of, yeah, that's supposed to be Clem's base, but at the same time, it is a launchpad for creep from Reynor, right? So he wants to force Clem onto that engagement. He's daring him. He's saying, I know I'm ahead. I'm gonna take this base, and you better stop me. Clem, however, says, you know what? Go ahead. I'm gonna go to the south and try to look for damage elsewhere, and he is actually gonna find a few drones here strangling to try to get back to the mining base of Reynor. 12 have fallen so far. The hatchery also under trouble, and it will actually fall while Clem actually withholds the aggression of Reynor. Beautiful Widow Mine to compound the issue means that Clem might as well just be back in this game.
Clem doing a phenomenal job. He's also going to be able to dive in and snipe off one of the critical Vipers there. Does eat a Baneling hit at the end, but Clem finding some ways to punch back in this game, sniping off Baneling after Baneling and letting the Marauders absorb the shots from the remaining Banelings. There's not actually that many Banelings left over on the map right now. There's about 11 of them. This is becoming a really, really awkward spot for Reynor because he's still in an okay spot for the moment, but this is getting worse and worse for him.
I mean, both players really are struggling for resources. Like, their banks are depleted, and yet they're even on supply. This is a game worthy of a final game of a grand final. It is a game worthy of a resume of any player in the world, certainly of these two. The Widow Mites are actually gonna do a lot of friendly fire to the Marines. Clem still choosing to stand his ground here forward as Reynor now backstabs, and this base is exposed yet again. Clem has done a good job of replenishing his workers, so these losses will not be the end of the game necessarily, but Reynor is now doing a fantastic job on the other side while still withholding the aggression here. That CC will fall to the Hydras, no doubt, and that is really bad news for Clem. So Reynor now punching back.
He is going to be able to find some big damage there. He also cleaned up all of the ghosts that were out of the map. 4 more ghosts just popped out. 4 more ghosts on the way, but that also means a little bit less for the Vipers to have to worry about. Also, the Lurker Den finishing up means Reynor's going to have potential to access those as well. 5 Lurkers immediately get discarded. On a map as small as this, those Lurkers, I mean, just the small amount of area that they can control, it is just a larger portion of the map. It's going to be an important aspect if Reynor can make the most of those.
Yeah, Reynor has also neglected to get the +2 or +3 attack upgrades for his Zerglings. That is not completely irrelevant, though. I mean, ideally you would have it. Obviously, the Banelings are going to be doing the brunt of the damage with their AOE damage, right? So it is a little bit of an oversight, but it is not necessarily game-ending, as he has been working heavy with the Hydras as well. And the Banelings are going to do AOE damage. The Lurkers are going to shred through Clem's army here, as they continue to move on forward to look for a more forward position. Maybe looking for the jugular here, as they can cut the blood flow between 2 bases. That would be nasty, but it's Clem who is gonna leap on the opportunity to snipe them before or as they burrow. And now with the concave, maybe looking to do something else. Liberators arrive at the perfect time here for Clem to dislodge this, but not without Reynor punching on the side and dislodging the base of Clem. Maybe trying to kill it, but that doesn't seem like enough Hydras, and actually Clem will get the cleanup onto the very expensive Lurkers, and without killing that CC, I am not sure that I can call that a Reynor victory on site, as the supplies continue to stay somehow, some way dead even.
I'm amazed. I'm actually really surprised. Reynor dove so far in with those Lurkers, and he didn't have any Ling support, no Hydra support or anything, because I think he was sending them off, but that left the Lurkers so vulnerable, and we saw exactly what happened. The Ghosts are able to snipe all those off. That was an expensive set of losses, as you were saying before, in a game where both these players are kind of struggling economically. This base, if Reynor loses this base, I don't know that he can remake those units, but he is able to mount a bit of a defense here. He's at least buying time with these Lurkers and these transfuses. But
Liberators are here, and there's not enough anti-air, only 3 Hydras to speak of, and that means that Reynor's gonna have to evacuate, but not without punching back yet again, going for the mineral line of Clem, as both players are dipping in the 60s now as far as the workers are concerned. The Lings will try to split against the mines, and the next mine might connect them to multiple Lings, but actually maybe the Marines doing them a favor and shaving off the Link that was about to get connected with. Reynor does hold on the bottom on the back of distracting Clem effectively here, and he splits at the last second against that mine that didn't activate earlier. So Reynor doing everything that he can to stay in this game. The same can be said for Clem, but now Clem has a little bit of a lead in terms of supply that he hasn't found for a little while. So he is certainly looking pretty strong here with the Liberators and the Ghost to work against the Lurkers.
These Lurkers are going to be so hard to replenish at this point now. Ghosts are getting abducted. EMP comes off, and I think one of the Vipers is very, very low on energy now. That means that these Ghosts have an opportunity to try and go for some additional snipes with the Lings. Gonna do that little dance, trying to prevent these Ghosts from getting the big snipes off. They still manage to find a handful of them.
Yeah, the Lurkers don't have the burrow upgrades by the looks of it, so they're a little bit slower to burrow. That's going to attack them whenever the Ghosts are going to snipe them. And yeah, beautiful EMP there from the Ghost onto both of the Vipers. The Vipers do get one abduct, but the other one gets sniped as well. So it's one Ghost for two Vipers at that point in time. And that is a good trade for Clem, who continues to push on forward here as Reynor is now sieging this base. It's not yet a planetary, so it can actually just be lifted off if Clem wants to do that. Instead, he's going to set up with the Liberator and the Ghost defense. Now the burrow is a little bit ready there for Reynor, as now Clem looks to engage. There's not enough buffer here for Reynor. Those are very expensive units, and Reynor cannot really afford to lose them, but he will. It's looking like Clem now has turned the tides finally, and the game should, and I say should because we've seen so many turns belong to him. Let's see if he can close it out here as he marches on forward towards this last remaining base of Reynor, at least on this south side of the map. He will be able to take that, and Reynor now is the one who is running very, very thin and low on options.
He barely has any mining left over. He has 4 mineral patches on all of his remaining base that he's actually mining from. He just doesn't have the income anymore to replenish those units. He's got 5 Lurkers being made, a handful of Hydras, but these are units that just cannot be replaced. The only saving grace here for Reynor was that he managed to pick off so many of the Ghosts, but now there's no buffer in front of the Lurkers. You don't even need the Ghosts to clean them up anymore.
Hands to the face from Reynor. He knows this game is done. He knows that this was his opportunity. He knows he had a very good chance. He knows he had 3 games to close it out beforehand, and now in this final one, he forged himself an advantage, but relentless aggression, relentless just willing pursuit for the victory of Clem.